What's up, Internet, and welcome to part 7 of my Niagara Program tutorial series. In this video, I'm going to go over how to delete objects from a station with a program object. I'll lay out another common scenario we run across and how we can use a program object to make our life a lot easier. So here we go. All right, so let's say we have a ton of objects we want to get rid of. So let's say you've got 5,000 points in the station and you want to dump all the history extensions from it. So one way to do that, you can come here to your program service and you can do, say you can do a search for all your numeric points, for example. So I've got some numeric points here. And as you see, I've got some histories laid out underneath each one of them. All right, and you could easily just go to remove slot and remove the slot. But see, the problem here is, in this instance, I've only got, 4 points. And each one of these histories is named something different. So I run across that a pretty good bit. So let's say if we've got, 5,000 points and 300 people added histories to, these points over years. And each person uses a different naming scheme. So I don't have to sit here and just go through every one of these and just hit that and OK and delete. And so in this case, we can use a program object to solve this for us. All right, so to keep myself from getting confused, I started naming these programs as I create them. So I'm going to call this the Hitman. And I'm using that name because this guy is going to get rid of all these history extensions. It's going to make them disappear. And the other thing is he's pretty dangerous because you could easily screw up something really bad if you select the wrong thing to delete. All right, so let's go into here. And I'm going to make 2 slots. The first one's going to be called our search query. And the type's going to be an ORD. And we'll do a summary on it. The next one is going to be our object type. And the actual type is going to be type spec. And we're going to do a summary on that. All right. Let's go ahead and define our scope. So we'll do a control numeric writable. We'll be good there. So if we hit the little play button here, you see it goes out and finds my numeric writable points I got right here. All right, so the type is we're going to put in what type of object we want to get rid of. Because as we go back to this program service here, the issue is we're removing these slots based on their names. So if we got tons of them that are named different things, then as I said before, we'd have to go through here and manually get all these. I don't want to do that. So I want to select the actual type, because even though all these history extensions are named different, they share the same type. So if we go to the slot sheet of our writable point here, we see that the type is history numeric interval history extension. So it's from the history module, and numeric interval history extension is the type. So we can go into our type spec here. And let's go down to history. And then we'll go down to numeric interval history extension. All right, so we should be good there. All right. So to cut down on me just sitting here typing the whole time, I've kind of went ahead and wrote this code, and I'll just copy and paste it in here, and I'll go over it as we run through it. All right, so this is the same piece of code that I use in several of these videos. So we're getting our query here, and then we're going to create a table, and we're going to resolve it with our query. And we've got our table cursor, and our table cursor is the object type that's going to be returned from our query into our table will be numeric writable, because that's what my points are here. All right, so our cursor is going to equal the result cursor. All right, so next I'm going to create a variable and name it point. And I'm just initializing it. I'm not going to do anything with it quite yet. And next, I'm going to create a B component array. I'm going to call it children. And I'm going to initialize it and just pass it a null for right now because we're not ready to use it yet. So now we're going to do a while loop. And I've explained that in a few other videos. So if you didn't catch that, then I recommend going back and checking some of my other videos out. And you'll see how these while loops work. All right, so our cursor is going to be equal to point, which is my B numeric writable up here. Then I'm going to get my children array here. And I'm going to call point.getChildComponents. So when you add a history to or a point, history becomes a child of that point. So you see here there is no getChildComponents. So that's when we have to go up our inheritance tree here. And we get to B component. And we scroll down to getChildComponents. So when you call that, it returns the results in an array. So that's why we had to create this array, because when we call point.getChildComponents, it's going to return all of these properties in an array. All right, so since we got an array, we need to iterate through it. And we're going to use a for loop. So as our for loop is looping through, if children, and then I'm calling out which item in the array. So as the for loop is looping through, it's returning each one of our properties, which is represented in this array here. And we're asking to get type. So here we're getting the type. And then we're casting it to a string. So when it returns a type, we can convert that type, because type is a type. See here, it's a type. We can cast that to a string, so the output will be in a string format. And then a string has a method called equals. So basically, it compares this to whatever you put in here. So as you see, when you call equals, you have to pass it what it needs to compare it to. So in this case, we're going to get object type, which is our slot here. So get object type. And from there, we're going to get the type info. So the type of object type is a type spec. So if we go here to be type spec, we've got a method called getTypeInfo. So we're calling that. And then, just like our type, we need to cast that to a string, because we can't compare a string to any other type. It needs to be a string. We have to compare two strings for this to work. So our type spec here also has a toString method. All right, so if the type of the object and the type we specified that we're wanting to get rid of in our object type slot, if they match, so if they equal, they're the same exact thing, we want to remove that object. So if we go to back to numeric point, or numeric writable, and we go up our inheritance tree here, as I call it, go to B component. All right, before we used an add in a previous tutorial, but we also have a remove. And we can pass it a B component. As you see here, the remove method is overloaded. So we can just pass it an object, which we are going to do here. And our children, so the I here will represent the property that matched. All right, so after we do that, we call cursor close. Going back to here, as I said before, this is pretty dangerous because if you were to go in here and just select something else, it would wipe it out. So you really should use this with caution. But in the sake of just showing how these program objects work and some of the different things you can do, and mainly how to come up with this code, I'm using it for this example. All right, so we're done. Let's fire off the Hitman and see what happens here. So if everything goes great, all these should disappear. So here we go. And they're gone. Got rid of all those history extensions. All right, that's all for this one. Like I said, just if you try to do something like this, just use it with caution because, like I said before, you can really screw up your station. I recommend if you do use it for something, make sure you get a good backup. That way, if you have a boo-boo, you can always go back. So if you got any questions or comments about this or want me to extend on it some more, just leave a comment down there in the bottom, and I'll see you on the next one.